All right. We touched up on this topic with nicotine addiction, but it goes hand in hand with alcoholism, in my opinion. Even caffeine consumption, the oral fixation aspect. I've covered this in a previous video. Half of the addiction with nicotine is the movement, the vapes, having something in your hand, the motion, the oral fixation, doing something with your mouth, right? It is what it is. I don't know if it comes from infancy. I don't know, but a lot of people have it. And it's like constantly keeping yourself busy with that. And it's hard. For 3 months after I quit vaping a while ago now, a few years ago, I would still reach for a vape that wasn't there, right? It was like, it was ingrained in me, man. And I'm sure it's like that with cigarettes, yada, yada. But it goes hand in hand with alcoholism, I feel. Because when I would drink, I had to have like an absorbent amount of like beer, 8%ers, like a whole, I was ready to rip and roar, constantly sipping, drinking. And with my mixed drinks, I've discussed this in a previous video. When I would make a mixed drink, I'd make them sort of not weak, but still not as heavy as I would, midway through drinking. But when I would get halfway through a drink, I'd always have to have it full. So I would chug the end of it and then refill it. It was like I was filling a drink every 15, 20 minutes. So that's why when I would make mixed drinks, I'd be blasted within 2 or 3 hours. Like if I would start drinking at 5 p.m., I'd be blasted by 7, 8. Like I would drink so much. And it was a oral fixation thing, constantly having something to drink. And if I was like gaming and I was like down to so much, I'd have to chug it and then, refill it at a house party. I always had to have a full drink. And it was annoying. And then I would start making them like quite strong, like a third liquor, like half and half. That stuff gets you blasted way too quick. But I always had to have the drink there, and that's why with coffee, I'm like this now, a year into not drinking. In the mornings into the evenings, it's like coffee, like a pot to 2 pots. It's ridiculous. So when I quit caffeine, I'm going to have to make sure I have like lemon water or like a fresh Powerade Zero. And I have to adapt to just drinking that because it's an oral fixation. It really is. It's half of it. Like I'm convinced that even alcoholism's a 30% oral fixation too, with just drinking something. I really am. Obviously, the buzz and all that is the counterpart that is much higher percentage. Like that's what you're going for, but it's always having that drink. I remember having a 12-pack or a bottle with a cup of ice. I'd be refilling constantly, and it was just this. And just like I am with coffee, it's still an issue for me. Same with like Gatorades. It's just a drink. It's an oral fixation. It is. I know it's more, correlated with smoking with people, but just think about it. If you're a binge drinker, you probably always need an excess amount, and it's the motion of just drinking. I remember when I quit, because when I was vaping and drinking, or vaping and drinking coffee, it was just the sip, puff, just like people are with cigarettes with coffee. And then with alcohol, I'd be drinking, puffing. It was just like nonstop, man. It's wild to me. And then when I quit vaping, it was hard to like drink alcohol or coffee without vaping, probably like it is with cigarettes. It goes hand in hand, both scenarios. Nicotine, alcohol, nicotine, coffee. But I went weeks just drinking coffee or just drinking alcohol without the nicotine, and I adapted to it. I didn't really care anymore. But it was a struggle for a while. Like those things go hand in hand, right? It takes like 14 to 28 days to break a habit or create a habit. Some could be off on that, but I know it's something like that. So if you go 2 to 4 weeks without something, it's a lot easier habitually to stop that issue. So like that's about the time it took, 2 to 4 weeks to like really break off from the nicotine mixed with everything else, right? When I quit. And that's very hard for people because it goes hand in hand. There was something about, even smoking a cigarette while drinking a beer or a mixed drink at the bar. Like, it was a lot of non-smokers became smokers at the bar, and it's still happening to this day. I remember in my young 20s, I never smoked cigarettes. I did the typical kid thing where I wouldn't inhale, but never smoked. And then it became like a weekend thing. When I was drinking, I was smoking cigs, and then I went to vaping, and that became every day. And I was still like having cigarettes when I was drinking. I would go like once a month and without smoking, then I'd smoke cigs when I drank, or once every 2 months. It was ridiculous. But when I was drunk and I'd smoke, the next day it affected me a little bit. I felt like crap, and I'd be like, oh man, I could use some nicotine. Then it would just go away. You got to like really smoke for a few days or a week to really like have that nicotine addiction to take hold. And I got lucky with that. I haven't smoked in well over a year and a half as far as a cigarette. But I went a year with smoking very little, just when I drank. But these things, this oral fixation, it's real. And think about it, like when you're drinking, that's, I don't want to say half of it, but it's a big percentage of it. And it still is to this day. And it will be even when I quit caffeine. I'm going to supplement it with like lemon water, cucumber water in the mornings. Like, I'm going to really make it healthier without the caffeine. This is going to be a struggle for me again. I've quit it twice. This time it's going to be rough, but it's not even a week and you're good. Then it's mental. Like, I'm sure I'm going to wake up and want to drink coffee, but I can do it. Mind over matter. Your mind's a very powerful thing. That's why I make these videos, to show people this bald, average blue collar dude, is doing these things. Weight loss, nicotine, quitting alcohol, overcoming these things. I just want people to go, if he can do it, I can do it. I'm not a celebrity with a fitness trainer. I'm not a celebrity with rehabilitation centers to my, to my left and right. I can go, and mommy and daddy pay for everything type person, So I want people to see that. Like, I don't care about celebrities and people with a lot of money, what they do, because they have access to more things than the average person. I work overtime weekly, and I'm an average guy. I do quite well as middle class, but I'm by no means rich, and I'm by no means poor, but that's why I make these videos. But yeah, with that being said, it really is an oral fixation. I just wanted to touch on that. Just think about that at some point. It's like always needing a drink. I remember when my one buddy got a DUI, he was still coming out to the house parties, and he would not drink. He did not drink. He could have, but he didn't. But he would drink an obnoxious amount of diet soda, that carbonation, like he was sucking them down while we were at the party, and he was doing that to supplement that oral fixation. He wasn't getting the drunk that he wanted, but it was keeping him at bay. He would go through, it was like he was drinking a 12-pack of beer, but it was diet soda. And, it's because of the oral fixation. He wasn't doing it for the caffeine or the taste of the soda. He was doing it to keep his mouth busy while he was hanging out with friends, which I noticed that too. This was many years ago. But, yeah, it is what it is. Take it easy and have a blessed 4th of July. And happy sobriety.